Need to get that radio out of your dash? I'll show you exactly how I removed mine and reinstalled it step by step. Let's get started.
Nothing to it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nothing to It. I'm your host, the Tulip Guy, and today we're going to be removing the car stereo. So before we actually start prying apart the trim on our radio and trying to pull this thing out from the dashboard, we're actually going to disconnect our car battery to eliminate any electronic shorts, and I will show you that in the next segment. So just hang tight and we will get to that right now before we get to the removal of this trim. As stated before we touch any of the trim and pulling out of our car radio, we just want to go over a little bit about the battery first. So we're going to be taking off the negative cable during this process, but a little anatomy about it first is that this is the positive symbol, a plus sign that represents the positive battery terminal with your positive battery cable. If you go to the other side, there's a negative or minus symbol that represents your negative battery terminal, which connects your negative battery cable. I'm going to show you how to go through the process of removing these cables in order to remove your car radio from the dashboard. So now that we've got some of the battery anatomy out of the way, what we're going to do is remove this nut on the, well, actually, we're not going to remove the nut. We're going to loosen the nut in order to take this negative battery cable off of that negative terminal. So we're going to get our 10 millimeter socket and we're going to crack loose that nut. You don't have to take it fully off, just enough that you can wiggle this terminal loose, or sorry, wiggle this cable loose and take it off the terminal. If you see that there's a little corrosion that crusts off the terminal, just blow it off and get rid of it. You don't want any of that corrosion on your terminal when you reconnect it later. You don't actually have to take off the positive terminal. This isn't recommended. This is more of a higher end troubleshooting method. So you don't actually have to do this. You're probably just fine with the negative terminal. And like I said, just taking this off and letting it rest for 5 minutes up to half an hour helps bleed off the residual power in your vehicle. If you would really like to make sure, you can actually turn on your headlights on and off a couple times. That will help bleed off some of the residual electronic power. Your headlights aren't actually going to turn on. Same with any other electrical component that you're going to turn on. You might tap your brakes a couple times, and that will actually activate the electrical current that's supposed to go to your brakes. The brake lights aren't going to actually work either, but it helps bleed off that excess power. But some people like to sit and let it rest for 30 minutes to allow things to fully discharge. In that case, you can grab yourself a coffee, get your breakfast, lunch, or dinner, whatever time frame of the day it is for you, and then you can proceed after that half hour time has lapsed. So with our vehicle off, our negative battery cable detached, and the electrical component bled dry, we are now going to remove this outer trim of the car radio. I typically like to use a smooth round edge on one of those X-Acto knife blades if you have it. I try not to use things such as screwdrivers or sharp objects because it kind of like damages or pries against the plastic in a way that doesn't look so appealing once you've reinstalled it. So if you can, put something nice and round in there, and that way you can kind of follow it around, drag it along the corners, slowly pop it loose from its attachments here and behind. Drag it around, slowly pop it. Don't force anything, just let it pop loose. Go around the bottom as well, and you'll see that it comes free of the radio system. Give you a little close-up of these attachment parts. They're just little clips. And they match into these little components into the bottom, top, and sides of the radio. The next step is getting a screwdriver. I like to use a manual screwdriver versus a power drill or anything like that, because it is kind of a delicate area back here. As structurally sound as it might seem, it's easier to do it by hand so that you don't break or crack anything when either taking it out or reinstalling it. This one in particular is a star-shaped pattern. We have what looks like 4 bolts on each corner. So just put it in there, crack them all loose first. And once you get them loose, it is possible that they kind of fall down a little bit. So try to get your finger on it and pull it out and guide it from the radio area in the dash, because they can fall and drop into these little inside these little holes and get down in behind the dash. And the last thing you want to do is be trying to figure out how to fish that out from behind the dashboard. So keep these as best you can away from those holes. Store them in a safe place. I'm going to put mine in the cup holder. Do the same thing with the other 3. Once they're pretty loose, get my finger in there, guide it out, put it in the cup holder. Repeat for all 4 corners. Once you have these 4 bolts removed, what I typically do is kind of put my screwdriver in one of the holes and kind of wedge it forward. That typically helps get the unwedging part started. Wiggle it back and forth a few times in the few corners if you need to. Just slowly, gradually wiggle it forward. Don't force anything too much. It needs a little more guidance here and there. Just try to slowly push it from in behind and just gently pry it forward. There we go. Now you get your fingers kind of behind it, pulling it out, revealing the backside of your radio. With the radio now pulled out, there's actually these 2 connectors here. This is the antenna connection, I believe, and this is the harness that connects to all the electrical equipment. What I'm going to do, so that you can see the other side of it where the clips are, is twist it around. If you have this space to do so, you can do that. So this little clip right here, try to get a closer up view of it for you. This little piece here, see this little tab that pushes in? It pushes and pulls out of the back of the radio. Same deal with this white clip here. There's like a little pinch clip here. It pops in and clicks. Just push it to release, pull it out. This removes the radio from the dashboard, and you can put in your new stereo system. If you're replacing it with the same radio, you can simply just reattach it until you hear a click. Same with the harness system here. Push it in until it clicks. Rotate the radio back so that it's right side up. Slide it back into place. And push it in, matching it where those 4 holes are that you remove the screws from. Now that we have our radio nested back in the position, you can go to that cup holder that we spoke of with our 4 bolts, and we simply just put them on our screwdriver, guide them in without letting them drop into any holes that might cause us problems, and slowly thread it back in and tighten it back into place. Repeat that process for all 4 corners. Now that all 4 of your screws have securely attached your radio back into the dashboard, we can now pop your trim plate back on. Keeping this thing oriented the way it came off, slowly push these plastic clips in to the appropriate spot that you removed them from. Line it up so that you can push it in nice and square, and just slowly click it in place. Make sure all these pieces click in. Once your trim is back in, that completes the reinstallation of your car factory stereo system. Now that we've successfully put our car stereo back into the vehicle, we can now reconnect the negative cable to the negative battery terminal. So tighten it back into place. Give it a couple wiggles to make sure it's not going to wiggle loose on you. And now you can turn on your vehicle and test out the new stereo system or a replacement factory setting system. If this video helped you out, consider subscribing to Nothing to It. I have plenty more projects, repairs, and how-to videos coming your way. If you're also looking for something else, check out the video on screen or check through my growing library and playlists. You might just find what you're looking for. And if you've come this far, leave a like, comment, and always remember, there is nothing to it.